Hey ChatGPT, do you know how many scientific miracles there are in the Quran? Be unbiased and reply back to me in 30 seconds.
Surah Al-Anbiya.30. Do not those who disbelieve see that the heavens and the earth were a closed-up mass, then we opened them out? And we made every living thing from water. Will they not then believe? This verse is interpreted by some as relating to concepts of the universe and the origins of life, sparking discussions about science and faith. Cleophy, the term scientific miracles in the Quran refers to verses that some people believe match modern scientific knowledge. The number of these verses varies based on interpretation. Some say there are dozens, while others claim over 100. This topic is often discussed and debated, and different people have different views. It's important to think critically and consider various perspectives on this subject.
All right, could you name some of them, if possible? Reply in 20 seconds, please.
Okay, here are a few examples often cited as scientific miracles in the Quran. Embryology, descriptions of human development in the womb, Surah Al-Mu'minun.14. Origin of the universe, the concept of the universe being created from a single point, Surah Al-Anbiya.30. The water cycle, references to rain and its role in sustaining life, Surah Az-Zumar 39:21. Mountains, descriptions of mountains acting as pegs to stabilize the earth, Surah An-Naba 78:6-7. These interpretations are subjective and debated among scholars.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT. Let's dive deeper into this chapter together with Jack and Wilson. Hey everyone, before we get started, I noticed in my YouTube channel analytics that many of you watching aren't subscribed. If you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It motivates me and helps the channel grow, so I can create more videos like the one you're about to see. Also, as some of you requested, my team has launched a website where you can read my books and find transcripts of all my videos in the form of small booklets. The link is in video description. We're working hard to produce informative videos daily, along with books and transcripts. I'd love your help in spreading dawah, calling to Allah's message. Please click the join button to show your support. Now, let's dive in.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at science, but through the lens of the Quran. We've got this really interesting video, and it's all about scientific miracles that are supposedly described in the Quran. So, full disclaimer here, we're not here to preach or anything like that. We're just a couple of curious, folks, and we're going to sift through the arguments and then let you decide what you want to make of it. Sound good?
It's an interesting idea, right? To bring together science, which is always changing and evolving with new theories and experiments in the Quran, a text that a lot of people see as fixed and never changing. But yeah, let's see what happens when these two worlds that seem so different collide.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. The first thing that really kind of grabbed my attention was this idea that quantum mechanics, that crazy world of like subatomic particles, might actually support the Quran's concept of destiny.
Yeah, and quantum mechanics does throw some pretty wild ideas at us, The video talks about this thing called spooky action at a distance, where two particles can actually influence each other instantly, even when they're super far apart. Like, they're connected by something invisible, something that goes beyond our normal ideas of space and time. And because of this link between particles, some people think that even our choices in the future could somehow affect things that have already happened in the past.
Hold on, wait, so are you saying that the future can actually change the past? Are we talking like time travel here?
Not exactly time travel, no. But the video does bring up this concept called retrocausality. It's this idea that our future actions, could actually have an effect on stuff that's already happened. Now, the Quran says that all good things come from Allah and that, evil comes from the choices that we make. But if you add this quantum layer to it, well, even those choices might be influenced by things we don't fully understand, things that exist outside of our normal linear way of thinking about time. It really makes you wonder, right?
It really does. So does this quantum entanglement thing change how you view your own choices, your own fate? Like, are we really making our own choices? Or is there this bigger picture that we're all part of, like what the Quran suggests?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Okay, let's move on to something a little more down to earth. The video points out that the words land and sea appear in the Quran in this very specific ratio.
Uh-huh.
Like 28.89% to 71.11%. And get this, that ratio is almost exactly the same as the actual proportion of land and sea on Earth.
I know, it's pretty wild, right? It's almost as if, like, the Quran is hiding a secret message about our planet right there in the words themselves. It's a bit like those mathematical constants, like pi, which seems to pop up in nature in these unexpected places, like hinting at this underlying order to the universe. And this ratio could be seen as like a sign of Allah's creative power, showing a kind of balance that's reflected both in the Quran and in the world around us.
Okay, get ready for this one, because this one's pretty amazing. The video talks about the story of the people of the cave. Yeah. Now, according to the Quran, these people, they slept for like 300 years, right? What's wild is that the Quran actually mentions that they returned from side to side during their sleep.
Which is crazy because, in modern medicine, we've just recently figured out how important it is to turn patients regularly when they're bedridden for a long time. It helps to prevent bed sores and circulation problems, which is something people, didn't really understand centuries ago. The fact that this medical practice that we're just figuring out now is mentioned in the Quran way back then it's just remarkable. It really makes you wonder where that knowledge came from,
Yeah.
and the possibility that, it might be, divinely inspired.
Yeah, it's like finding a hidden medical manual in an ancient text. and speaking of, hidden things, the video links this verse about Allah recreating humans from their fingertips to the scientific fact that everyone's fingerprints are unique.
It is a clever connection. The video draws a parallel between, the power of Allah to recreate a human being and this really concrete scientific fact that each of us has this unique, uncopyable mark. It's as if those little swirling lines on our fingers, they point to something deeper about us being individuals. Not just physically, but maybe even spiritually as well.
Yeah, it really makes you think about what it means to be one of a kind, and how that uniqueness might be connected to a bigger spiritual picture. Okay, let's dive into some theoretical physics. Apparently, the Quran mentions this smallest possible unit, some kind of fiber or thread-like structure, and the video links that to string theory. String theory, those tiny vibrating bits of energy that some physicists think make up everything in the universe.
Yeah, string theory is pretty complex. It's a very, very complex area of physics, and it's still debated. But what's really interesting here is the connection itself. Even if we don't totally understand string theory yet, the potential link between this cutting-edge science and the Quran it's pretty mind-blowing. It reminds us that there are probably layers of reality that we don't even know about yet, hidden dimensions just waiting for us to discover them.
Okay, this next one is a wild one. This one is about fire tornadoes. Those rare, scary twisters of fire that form under very specific conditions? Well, the video links them to a verse that describes fire consuming a garden. So it's suggesting that the Quran might actually be talking about fire tornadoes.
What makes this so interesting is that fire tornadoes are incredibly rare. They only happen when you have this very specific combination of things like intense heat, swirling winds, and fuel. So to find a description that might predate our modern understanding by centuries, it's pretty remarkable. It really begs the question, what other natural wonders might be hidden in the Quran, just waiting for science to catch up and explain what they mean.
It's like we're on this cosmic treasure hunt using science as our map.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about phytoplankton. Those tiny microscopic plants in the ocean that produce a huge amount of the Earth's oxygen. Now, the video highlights the Quran's emphasis on the importance of the morning.
Yeah.
And it connects that to the fact that phytoplankton are actually most active and produce the most oxygen in the early morning hours.
It's like a perfect example of how everything is connected, right? On the surface, the verse in the Quran might seem like it's just saying to appreciate the morning. But when you dig a little deeper, you find this link to this incredibly important ecological process, this thing that keeps our planet alive. It's like the Quran is subtly reminding us that all of creation is interconnected,
Yeah.
about the delicate balance of life on Earth and how important even the smallest things are.
Yeah. It's amazing how something as simple as starting your day with a little bit of gratitude for the morning can connect to this much larger web of life and creation. Okay, let's buzz over to the world of bees for a second. Those amazing navigators of the insect world. The video talks about how bees have these complex navigation skills, how they find the shortest way back to their hive and their intricate ways of communicating. And then it connects us to the verse that says, follow the ways your Lord has made easy for you.
What really stands out to me here is the use of analogy. The video is basically drawing this parallel between, the bee's really efficient journey and our own paths in life. Just like bees naturally follow the most direct route, we can find our own way too. If we trust in a higher guidance, it's a really elegant way to encourage us to think about our own journeys and, how we handle the challenges and choices that come our way.
Yeah, it's like the Quran is giving us this gentle nudge,
Yeah.
like trust your instincts, just like the bees trust their super complex internal compass. Okay, this one really made me do a double take. The video talks about how two seas can meet but not actually mix, like the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, where you can see this clear line between the two bodies of water. And get this, it claims that the Quran describes this and even gives precise coordinates for it.
Now this one, we got to be a little careful with. While it's definitely true that different bodies of water can have really different characteristics, like different saltiness, different temperatures, even different colors, which can prevent them from mixing easily, saying that the Quran gives pinpoint coordinates, might be pushing it a bit. We got to approach these interpretations with a bit of healthy skepticism. But the basic idea, that the Quran recognizes the separation between different water masses, that's really interesting. It shows an awareness of, of the natural world and how complex it is.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how people back then observed and understood these natural occurrences and how their observations might line up with what we know from science today. Speaking of observations, the video connects this verse that mentions the lying, sinful forelock to our scientific understanding that the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain in the forehead, is responsible for lying and making decisions.
It is fascinating how this one blends the physical with the metaphorical. The Quran, by talking about the forelock, is connecting a physical part of the body with this moral idea of lying. And that raises some pretty interesting questions about the connection between our bodies and our souls. Is there this deeper link between our physical brains and, and our sense of right and wrong? It definitely makes us think about, about that complicated interplay between our bodies and the choices we make.
Yeah, it's like the Quran is pointing to this physical spot where moral struggles might play out. Right there on our foreheads. All right, switching gears again. The video compares how the Quran describes people rising from their graves on the Day of Judgment to how locusts come out of the ground.
This comparison highlights how powerful analogies can be in religious texts. The image of, locusts suddenly swarming out of the ground, it gives you this, this really strong visual for this concept of resurrection, which can be hard to picture otherwise. It's a really, really strong metaphor for this idea of transformation and renewal.
It's not just about coming back to life,
Yeah.
right? But about being changed, being lifted to this whole new level of existence.
Yeah, exactly. And it also reminds us that even in the natural world, in nature all around us, we see these cycles of death and rebirth, of things ending and new things beginning.
The video also talks about the returning sky, and it interprets that phrase as matching up with what science knows about the atmosphere's layers and how those layers reflect or return elements back to Earth.
Yeah, and that connection really highlights how everything on Earth is interconnected. The atmosphere, it's not just this empty space up above us, it's a crucial part of our planet. It protects us from harmful radiation, it helps regulate the temperature, and it recycles essential stuff like water. The Quran, it manages to capture this vital process in just a few words.
But a picture of the Earth, like it's alive, like it's breathing, taking things in and letting them go, constantly changing and renewing itself.
It really is, isn't it? It makes you think about things like pollution and climate change.
Right.
When we mess with those delicate systems, it's like we're stopping the Earth from being able to breathe, from keeping that balance.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
Yeah.
It really makes that connection between the returning sky and the atmosphere, really relevant today.
Absolutely. It's this reminder that we got to take care of our planet, respect how delicate it is, and make sure it's healthy for future generations.
Okay, let's move on to the connection between this verse that talks about a feeling of tightness in the chest and the experience of hypoxia, of having trouble breathing at high altitudes.
This one is really interesting because it links this physical sensation, that tightness in your chest when you can't get enough air. It links it to this specific scientific phenomenon. It's like the Quran is describing a physical response that science didn't even understand for centuries. It's a powerful way to connect an ancient text to this very real experience that people have. Think about it. Have you ever felt that shortness of breath, maybe if you were hiking in the mountains or something?
Totally. And it's something that so many people can relate to, whether they've experienced it at high altitudes, or during a tough workout, or even during times of like anxiety or panic.
Yeah.
It makes this verse from the Quran feel incredibly, relevant and relatable even today.
Yeah, for sure. It shows the power of the Quran to connect with us on this, this really personal level, both physically and emotionally.
The video also mentions this phenomenon of two seas meeting but not mixing. Specifically, it talks about the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, where there's this visible line between the two bodies of water.
Yeah, and this phenomenon, it's visually pretty striking, but it actually comes down to some basic scientific principles. Different bodies of water can have, different levels of salt, different temperatures and different densities, and that can make it hard for them to mix together. So while the Quran might not be giving us exact coordinates like the video suggests, it is definitely recognizing this, this natural occurrence. And it highlights this awareness of the diversity and complexity of the natural world, even in something as seemingly, uniform as the ocean.
It's like nature's drawing these invisible lines in the water, right?
Yeah.
Creating these separate zones that each have their own special qualities.
Exactly. And it just shows how amazingly diverse and intricate creation is, all the subtle ways that natural forces work together to shape the world around us.
Now, the video brings up this idea of iron being set down from the sky, and it connects that to, the scientific understanding that the iron we have on Earth actually came from supernova explosions in space.
And it's true, a lot of those heavy elements, including iron, they're formed in the, in the fiery hearts of stars. And then when those stars explode, those elements get scattered out into space. So, yeah, in a way, you could say that the iron that makes up our planet, even our own bodies, it came from the sky. It's this beautiful reminder that we're all connected to these huge cosmic events that shaped the universe,
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
That journey that iron has taken to become a part of our bodies and our planet. It makes you feel connected to something much, much bigger than yourself. Like you're part of this incredible cosmic story.
It really does, doesn't it? It's this reminder that we're not separate from the universe, we're a part of it, woven from the same, cosmic fabric.
And then the video talks about how milk is formed. And it claims that the Quran describes the actual process of how it happens, in a way that matches up with modern science, even before scientists figured it out.
The thing that's really fascinating about this description is how detailed it is. The Quran seems to be accurately describing how nutrients from digested food get absorbed into the bloodstream, and then how they're carried to the mammary glands. And then in those glands, those nutrients are transformed into milk. It's like the Quran is giving us this little peek into how incredibly complex the human body is, revealing this deep knowledge that existed way before modern science came along.
It is kind of awe-inspiring, isn't it? To think about how amazing and complex our own bodies are. These processes that we just take for granted, but they're actually so incredible.
They really are. And it shows how intricate and wise nature is, all these incredible things happening inside us every single day.
This has been an incredible exploration so far, but we've covered so much, and I'm sure you probably, you're ready for a break to process all of these connections, right?
Yeah.
I think a little break would be good,
Right.
to think about what's really resonated with you, what questions have popped up, and how these connections might change how you understand the world around you.
We'll be back in the next part of our deep dive to keep exploring this really cool interplay between science and the Quran. Welcome back to our deep dive into the connections between science and the Quran. Before we go any further, I think it's important to remember that interpretation plays a really big role in how we understand these connections.
You're totally right. Just because a verse might seem to line up with something we've discovered in science, it doesn't automatically mean that it was like intended as a purely scientific statement. I mean, the Quran was revealed centuries ago in a totally different cultural and scientific context, right? Right. And that's where critical thinking comes in. It's easy to get caught up in the wow factor of these connections, but we got to look at them carefully. We should be asking ourselves, hold on, is this interpretation kind of stretching the meaning of the verse? Are there other ways to understand it that might, that might fit better with the overall message of the Quran?
So how can we appreciate these, these really intriguing connections without going too far with the interpretation?
I think one way is to focus on the bigger principles that are at play, rather than getting hung up on, on taking everything literally. For example, instead of saying, this verse proves that Quran knew about quantum tunneling, we could say, this verse highlights this idea that what seems impossible from one point of view might actually be possible from a different perspective. It's a subtler approach, one that, that recognizes that religious texts can be, poetic and metaphorical.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like enjoying a beautiful piece of music. You don't have to overanalyze every single note to enjoy it.
Exactly. And remember, we're not here to try to prove or disprove anything. We're just exploring these connections. Yeah, sparking some interesting questions and hopefully encouraging you to think about both science and religion in a deeper, more meaningful way.
I like that. Okay, let's get back to the video and see what other connections points out. One that I thought was really interesting was that comparison between how the Quran describes the resurrection and how locusts emerge from the ground.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that analogy is that it works on a few different levels. Locusts, with their sudden and kind of dramatic appearance, it's a powerful image for this idea of resurrection, which can be, it can be hard to grasp sometimes. But there's also a biological parallel there. Locusts go through this metamorphosis, right? They transform from these nymphs that are buried underground into these winged adults that swarm all over the place. And it's a powerful metaphor for this idea of transformation and, and being renewed.
Yeah, it's not just about coming back to life, right?
Yeah.
But about, about being changed in some way.
Yeah.
Becoming something new and better.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even in nature, we see these cycles of death and then rebirth, of things being destroyed and then new things being created.
The video also talks about, the returning sky. And it interprets that as lining up with what science understands about the layers of the atmosphere and how those layers, reflect things back down to Earth or return elements to the Earth.
Right. And this connection, it really highlights how everything on Earth is connected. The atmosphere, it's not just, up there. It's an active part of our planet. It plays this huge role in regulating temperature, shielding us from dangerous radiation, recycling water and all sorts of, essential elements. And the Quran, it sums up this really complex and crucial process in just a few words.
It's a beautiful image, isn't it? The Earth, like a living being breathing in and out, constantly cycling things and renewing itself.
Yeah, it is. It really makes you think about, the impact we have on the planet with pollution and climate change. When we mess with these fragile systems, it's almost like we're interfering with the Earth's ability to breathe, to maintain that balance.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful thought. It makes that connection between, the returning sky and the atmosphere. It makes it feel really relevant, to what's going on today.
Oh, for sure. It reminds us that, that we've got this responsibility to take care of the planet, to respect its delicate systems, to ensure that it's going to be healthy for future generations.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the connection between that verse that talks about a constricted chest and the experience of hypoxia, of having trouble breathing when you're at high altitudes.
This one's particularly interesting because it connects this physical feeling, that feeling of tightness in your chest when you just can't get enough air. It links it to a specific scientific phenomenon. It's like the Quran is, it's like it's describing a physical response that science didn't even understand for hundreds of years. It's a pretty powerful way to connect an ancient text to a very real, very physical experience. Think about it. Have you ever felt that, that shortness of breath, maybe if you were, hiking in the mountains or something?
Oh, totally. And it's something that so many people can relate to,
Wow.
whether they felt it at high altitudes or, while they're working out really hard, or even during, moments of anxiety or panic. It makes that verse from the Quran feel, incredibly relevant, really relatable, even today.
Yeah, exactly. It just shows how, how the Quran can connect with us on this really, really personal level, physically and emotionally.
Okay, the video also mentions that phenomenon of two seas meeting but not mixing. Specifically, it talks about the Baltic Sea and the North Sea,
Yeah.
where you can actually see this distinct line between the two bodies of water.
Right, right. And this phenomenon, while it's visually, very striking, it's actually based on some pretty well understood scientific principles. Different bodies of water, they can have, different levels of salinity, different temperatures, different densities, and those things, they can make it difficult for them to mix. So while the Quran might not be, providing specific coordinates like the video suggests, it's definitely acknowledging this, this natural phenomenon. It's highlighting an awareness of, of how diverse and complex the natural world is, even within something as, as seemingly uniform as the ocean.
Yeah, like nature's drawing these, these invisible boundaries in the water, creating these different zones, each with its own unique characteristics.
Huh. Exactly, and it speaks to the, to the incredible variety and intricacy of creation, all the subtle ways that these natural forces interact and shape the world around us.
Absolutely. Now, the video brings up the idea of iron being sent down from the sky.
Yeah.
And it connects that to the scientific understanding that, that iron on Earth actually originated from supernova explosions in space.
And it's true, a lot of those heavy elements like iron, they're forged in the cores of stars, and then when those stars explode, they scatter those elements throughout space. So in a way, yeah, you could say that the iron that makes up our planet, even our own bodies, it all came from the sky. It's this beautiful reminder that we're all connected to these, these grand cosmic events that shaped the universe.
It is mind-blowing when you really think about it, the journey that iron has taken to become part of our bodies, part of our planet. It makes you feel connected to something so much bigger than yourself. Like you're part of this, this huge cosmic story.
It really does. It's a reminder that we're not, we're not separate from the universe. We're a part of it, woven from the, from the same cosmic fabric.
I love that. Okay, and then the video talks about how milk is formed.
Right.
And it claims that the Quran describes this whole process accurately, scientifically, even before scientists figured it out.
What's so fascinating about this description is just how detailed it is. The Quran seems to accurately describe how nutrients from the food we digest, how they're absorbed into the bloodstream and then carried to the, the mammary glands, and then how those nutrients are transformed into milk. It's like, it's like the Quran is giving us this glimpse into the incredible complexity of the human body, revealing this knowledge that existed long before, modern science came along.
It is kind of awe-inspiring when you think about it, how amazing and complex our own bodies are. All these processes that we don't even think about, they're actually so incredible.
They really, really are. And it shows just how, how intricate and how wise nature is, All of these incredible things are happening inside us every single day.
Okay, and finally the video talks about, about Sirius, the dog star. And it claims that the Quran actually describes it as a binary star system. Before scientists confirmed that.
Right. And Sirius, it is a binary star system, which means it's actually two stars, orbiting around a common center of mass. And it wasn't until the 19th century that astronomers could actually confirm that. So it is pretty interesting that the Quran mentions Sirius specifically. It raises questions about where that knowledge came from and the possibility that the Quran might contain insights that were ahead of their time.
It's almost as if the Quran is inviting us to dig deeper, to question our assumptions about the world.
Yeah.
And to be open to the possibility that there might be, hidden knowledge out there just waiting to be discovered.
I think that's a great way to put it, It encourages the sense of curiosity and wonder. It invites us to explore the world around us with open minds and open hearts.
I love that. This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive so far.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, and I'm sure our listeners have a lot of, reflections and questions of their own.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what we want to encourage, a deeper engagement with these ideas, a thoughtful consideration of where science and faith, where they intersect, and an open dialogue about the mysteries of the universe and our place in it.
Absolutely. So as we get ready to wrap up this deep dive, I got to ask you, dear listener, what does all this mean for you? Does exploring this, this intersection of science and religion, does it make your understanding of either one stronger? Or does it make things more complicated? Welcome back to the deep dive. It's been amazing going through all these connections between science and the Quran, and it really shows how much we humans need to make sense of the world around us. We're always looking for answers, right? Trying to figure out where we fit in this huge and sometimes confusing universe.
Yeah, for sure. We love those aha moments, those moments where things click and we suddenly understand something new. Those flashes of insight that help us connect the dots and find meaning in all this complexity. And for a lot of people, both science and religion, they offer different paths to finding that understanding.
Right. Exactly. Science,
Yeah.
through its, with its focus on observation and experiments and logic, it gives us this amazing tool for exploring the physical world, and religion with its focus on faith and spirituality and, and moral values. Well, it offers this way to connect with something bigger than ourselves, to tap into this sense of purpose and meaning that goes beyond the material world.
And what we've been exploring in this deep dive is that those two paths, they don't have to be, mutually exclusive. There are these points where they cross over, where scientific discoveries seem to resonate with, with religious teachings. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Yeah. It definitely makes us rethink those boundaries we've set up between science and religion. It makes you wonder, are there like different layers of truth, different ways of knowing? And could it be that searching for knowledge, whether it's through science or religion, could actually lead us to this deeper understanding of the mysteries of life?
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes exploring these ideas so enriching. It's not about trying to, to force science and religion to fit together perfectly or to use one to prove the other. It's about, appreciating the beauty and the complexity of both and recognizing that each one can show us different aspects of being human.
That's a great way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I've got to ask you, dear listener, what does all of this mean to you? Does looking at this intersection of science and religion, does it strengthen your understanding of either one?
Yeah.
Or does it complicate things for you?
That's a question that only you can answer, really. There's no right or wrong way to approach these ideas. But I would encourage you to stay curious, to keep asking questions, and to be open to the possibility that there's always more to discover, more to learn, more than we can even imagine.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And remember, this is really just the start of the conversation. We want to hear from you, your thoughts, your insights, those aha moments you've had. Share them in the comments. Join our online community. Let's keep this exploration going.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.